throw to somebody else.
There you go. They fake it. Snead! There's your guy, Snead! Recovered by the Colts, but doesn't matter because the Chiefs, it was 4th down, will take over at the 35-yard line.
You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into Thursday, September 29th edition of KCSN Update here, presented by our friends at DraftKings. Got a really special episode for you guys today. Sit down with Carmen Vitali of Fox Sports. She covers the NFC North, usually is what she does. She covers, the Packers, the Bears, the Lions, the Vikings, those guys. But she's the former team reporter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who the Chiefs play this week. So we kind of go behind enemy lines here and get a little lowdown on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Carmen offers some really good insight on that team. She's just around those guys just a little bit ago, so she has a lot of good insight into what that team does, and even the coaches. Todd Bowles have a really good conversation about him as well. So make sure you stick around and listen to the whole episode. Carmen is fantastic. Make sure to go follow her wherever you get your content on Twitter. At Carmi V is where she is, CarmieV. So make sure to go follow her for everything going on around the league. Great episode today. Make sure to stick all the way to the end. So make sure to like and subscribe as well to the channel. Like the video if you do enjoy the video. Subscribe so you don't miss any daily Chiefs content. We got you covered here at KC Sports Network. We know that there's a ton of Chiefs content out there. We're just happy that you make us one place that you stop on your journey to get everything you need to know about this football team, this exciting football team that Kansas City has on their hands. But before we get to the interview, let's hear a word from our friends at DraftKings. The NFL action is in full swing here at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. We're talking touchdowns, big plays, and even bigger wins. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If that's not enough, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Right now, for every leg you add, you can boost your winnings up to 100%. With bigger payouts than ever, why bet on football anywhere else? To make things even sweeter, you can throw down on stepped-up same-game parlays once per game day all season long. Here's what you got to do. You got to go download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use the promo code KCSN to get $200 in free bets if your team wins when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code KCSN only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. All right, Carmen, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you hopping on, making some time for us here at KC Sports Network. Not your first time on the network either. You had a podcast with BJ talking about, I believe it was before the NFL draft. I think that's right.
It's where I proclaimed my love for Trent McDuffie to the world. So
that's right. How can I forget? You basically manifested Trent McDuffie to Kansas City.
I really did. Like when they ended up getting him, and I was like, wow, okay. I didn't think that they were going to be able to, but then I believe they traded up. Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, to go get him. And I think that will pay off. It will pay off eventually.
100%. I'm excited to see that guy back out there on the field. Getting injured in week 1 is always tough, especially on that turf too. A lot of turf issues. We've had a lot of players complain about fields this year. It seems like a lot more than usual.
Yeah, I mean, Sterling Shepard with the Giants, although I think MetLife is kind of known for that a little bit because you had OBJ tweeting about it afterwards, like, nah, man, the grass is terrible. But I'd say the show I just got off for CHGO here in Chicago, we had a whole discussion about why is this not more streamlined? Why is this not more regulated? Like, this is the NFL. Why do playing surfaces vary that heavily? Or if they're not held to stricter standards or whatever it is, because they're all very different and it's hard on these guys' bodies.
It is very hard. It's a hard sport already. No need to change playing surfaces like that so much. Right. But Carmen's not here to talk about playing surfaces. She's here to talk about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We're going to do 5 things to watch for. If you don't know Carmen already, Carmen used to be the team reporter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, now working for Fox Sports, covering the NFC North. But just can't get away from those Buccaneers.
I just can't. I was with them last weekend. I was in Tampa this past weekend. And I got out, in time. And I want to just say quickly, like, I hope that everything ends up okay in Tampa. And this game does get played in Tampa, because that is a big question mark right now. But I'm hoping that Tampa doesn't really sustain as much damage as maybe they're expecting.
Yeah, as we're recording this podcast, not a whole lot is really known about the location of the game, but it is certain that the NFL did declare that it's going to be on Sunday night regardless. So that's kind of good for both teams to know that they're going to be playing on Sunday night. The Buccaneers, I believe, are already practicing in Miami, so they've been displaced. We've been talking all across the network how that could kind of heighten their focus on this game already. So a lot of things, a lot of things to watch for in this game. There's a bunch of stuff going on. So Carmen, what's kind of your first thing to watch for in this Chiefs-Bucks game?
Well, you got Mike Evans coming back for this Bucks offense that desperately needs some receivers. Obviously, we saw this last weekend against the Packers, which is a very, very good defense in itself. They completely shut down the Bucks offense. I mean, the Bucks held the Packers to 14 points, and they still couldn't pull off the win. So that being said, Tom is going to get back his perhaps favorite target in Mike Evans. He's obviously a big red zone threat given how big he is. And so he's going to be raring to go too. He's going to be off a week of rest, which was a suspension, but it was a week of rest. And they're going to be looking to, kind of get something out of this offense, because that's something that they've been struggling with this year. I think that's the number one thing that Chiefs are going to have to look out for. It's Mike Evans. He's a great player. One of the top receivers in the league.
That's true. One of my favorite players, honestly, Mike Evans, one of my favorite receivers to watch. This guy's just so dominant. Going back to even at Texas A&M, just a very solid receiver all around. You could tell that offense was really hurting without Mike Evans. And the most urgency they had all game was that last drive against the Packers, and it was.
I know. And they, to score and then to not get the 2 points because of the delay of game and all that kind of stuff. Like, you have 2-point plays. You practice 2-point plays in practice. You do not practice 2-point plays from the 7-yard line. You don't do that. That's so now you're going into like your third and long playbook and the different aspects of the call sheet and everything like that. Like, that's just no wonder there was so much confusion around that. But yeah, to lose in that fashion was frustrating for sure, because that's all they needed. They needed 2 points. A score of 14-12. Who thought, the showdown between Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady would be a defensive game? Because of course it was.
Right. It'd be 14-12. And then you went from that game, watching that game, right into the Sunday night game that ended 11-10. So it's just like a couple of very weirdly scored games, but just a weird weekend of football. All right, let's get to your second thing to watch here. What do you got for us, Carmen?
Well, I mean, on the heels of that, the Bucks did only let up 2 touchdowns, and it was at the beginning of the game, and then they held the Packers scoreless throughout the rest of it. And this is, I think we're looking at, and I'm a little bit biased, but we're looking at probably the best defense in the league at this point, and from all levels too. I mean, they were missing Akeem Hicks and still only let up 2 touchdowns, and then nothing the rest of the way. They completely stifled the Packers running game. And they have the tandem of AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones. They were a very potent tandem the week before against the Chicago Bears. And then here they come, they run into a complete brick wall that's missing Akeem Hicks. Now, we don't know if Akeem Hicks is going to be back for this week. From everything that I have heard outside of that building, he is going to be out for a more prolonged period of time. But that being said, something that the defensive staff told me when I was there last week was we still have our best run stuffers, without Akeem. Akeem is a really good pass rushing interior tackle, but they still have Vita Vea, they have William Golston, and they had Raheem Nunez-Roches, who Chiefs fans should be familiar with, on that defensive interior. So I think that's going to be, really key in making the Chiefs offense completely one-dimensional, but obviously that's not the focal point of the Chiefs offense. The Chiefs offense centers around Patrick Mahomes, but also the Bucs know how to deal with him too. So we'll see.
These two teams have some history. This is starting to be quite a rivalry almost. You could probably call it a rivalry at this point, especially what happened in the Super Bowl. But no, what I love about Vita Vea, I can't remember if it was last week or the week before, where he dropped into pass coverage and then forced a fumble.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's amazing.
Yeah, it was last week. It was Aaron Jones right at the goal line, and he drops into coverage, and it's him and Levante David sandwiching Aaron Jones, causes the fumble, prevents Green Bay from scoring. Those are not two guys that you want to be sandwiched between.
Vita Vea might be the peak of male athleticism. When you see him drop back, it's quite special.
In all facets, because I was there for training camp, and so I had seen him on one of their mic'd up segments, the Bucs mic'd up segments, completely delete a Gatorade can by shotgunning it. So I went for training camp, and I was like, okay, V, we're going to shotgun a Gatorade because I want to see this for myself, and I also want it to be kind of compared to maybe a normie like me.
Right. Yeah.
So him and I had a shotgun contest, and predictably it did not go well for me. I actually think I shotgunned it pretty quickly, and that's what people told me. But it's 1 second, it's one gulp, and he's just done. And it's out. It's like he is the peak, like male mold. I don't know. He's got peak athleticism across the board. If it's on the football field or off of it, shotgunning. Although we were on the field, shotgunning a can of Gatorade.
He's a hard player not to like, and especially even during the Super Bowl, I saw him wrecking that Chiefs battered offensive line. I was just like, man, I don't like that. I like how this guy plays. It's one of those, as a Chiefs fan, it's just like, God, it's like I would love him on my team. So, that defensive front, very, very stiff, very sturdy. Let's get to your third point here, Carmen. What do you got for us?
I mean, I think I want to kind of stay on defense, and I want to see the matchups with Travis Kelce, because that seems to be clearly Mahomes' kind of safety blanket for the Chiefs still, which makes a lot of sense given Tyreek Hill's absence now from the team. So I want to see who they match up with Travis Kelce, because he just is a complete matchup nightmare. He's huge. He can run. He's like a receiver, but then, you can't really put a corner on him because he's too big for a corner. Mm-hmm. You can't put a linebacker on him because he's too fast for a linebacker. That being said, Bucs have a really good linebacker tandem in Levante David and Devin White. We've seen a lot more of Devin White kind of rushing up the middle, and he's gotten, I think, 3 sacks this year already, which is on pace to be his most in a season if he keeps this up. So I think he's paying a little bit more attention, and he's more involved in the pass rush, I should say. That being said, I think Levante David is still one of the best coverage linebackers in the league, and he can go toe-to-toe with anybody. He can keep up with anybody. But it will be interesting, too, because of just, again, the matchups that Travis Kelce presents, or the matchup nightmare that Travis Kelce presents. And I think that to get back on track, I have to imagine that that's going to start between those two, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce.
It's a little bit different of a receiving core, or at least size-wise, since the last time that the Bucs have seen the Chiefs. A lot bigger. MVS is a bigger wide receiver than, Tyreek Hill and McCole Hardman being your 1-2 with Byron Pringle. Like, those guys are a lot smaller than MVS, Juju Smith-Schuster, Travis Kelce now being your 3. I'm curious to see how those all matchups do shake out. I really do like that. And to your point, those Bucs linebackers, they're fun.
I want to give a shout out to I don't know if this is another takeaway necessarily, but what we're seeing a lot of from the Bucs defense and from the secondary in particular is this 3 safety rotation of Logan Ryan, Keanu Neal, Antoine Winfield Jr., and then you get Mike Edwards in there too. Like they have depth, and they're putting 3 safeties on the field, and they're slotting a safety in that nickel, like that slot corner spot. And it's resulted in more takeaways. They've gotten more interceptions. Like I said, they're absolutely stifling as far as a defense goes. And it's a big reason for that is because of these guys in the back end. And it's very confusing because quarterbacks are used to reading 2 safeties, that are maybe in coverage. But now you can have both safeties in coverage, but then also have a safety nickel hybrid coming down in the box. They've been blitzing those guys. Right. Although I know Patrick Mahomes is very, very good against the blitz. That hasn't changed since the last time that these teams match up. But Todd Bowles has kind of figured out how to get pressure with maybe just 4, which has been the key. So you can leave guys in coverage and kind of. But I don't know. I don't know if that's that. Like you tell me if that's kind of a concern anymore, because this receiver core isn't what it was with Tyreek Hill, and they're getting it done in other ways. I don't know if you need all those guys back on the back end. Do you blitz? I don't know.
Patrick Mahomes has been blitzed a whole lot this year, a lot more than in years past.
Yes.
I think the Cardinals started blitzing him. I think it was, I can't remember what the number is, like in the 80% rate at the very first game. And you obviously saw Patrick Mahomes have a very good game against the Cardinals.
Yes.
But teams have continued to blitz him. Even, Gus Bradley with the Colts, who didn't blitz him a whole lot, was like, I guess I'll try it out this time. Got the better of Mahomes. But it just seemed like a lot of things in that Colts game were just out of sync, from the receivers to just everything like that. So if you can keep Patrick Mahomes out of sync, especially from a Tampa Bay perspective, throwing 3 safeties out there that you have to try to think about, I think is probably gonna go in your favor, especially with the offensive line for the Chiefs. It's a little shaky right now. They're all dealing with their bumps and bruises early on in the season, and it's kind of showing in some areas. So that's going to be really interesting to see how, Todd Bowles has schemed up Patrick Mahomes very well in the past. I think Todd Bowles is a phenomenal defensive coach. And if you can scheme up Patrick Mahomes, you can scheme up against anybody.
Yeah, I was actually really shocked, and I think I commented on that. I tweeted about it after seeing how much Arizona was blitzing Patrick. I'm like, are we really just not worried about any of these receivers anymore? Like, do we just not care? And we're just gonna, but like, he's also just so elusive that the blitz isn't necessarily as effective against him just from that standpoint either, because he's not going to just necessarily stay in that pocket, and he's going to be able to make things happen from all around the backfield. I mean, we saw it every time that I've watched these two teams play. Mahomes, like, you think the play is over. You think the pocket's collapsing around him. You think that even like if he's out and he's running around, there's no one open, these guys are covering. It's hard for a receiver or for cornerbacks and safeties to cover these receivers for 4, 5, 6 seconds. Like that's not what you're supposed to have to do, but you have to do it against Mahomes because he can make things happen later in the play when you think it's over. But that's always an issue with Mahomes. And so I was just kind of like, are we really giving up on this receiver core when you have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback who can make things happen? I don't know. Well, it'll be very interesting to see if the Bucs kind of try and get pressure that way, or if they do more of those simulated pressure looks where maybe they're showing a blitz and then they drop guys like Vita Vea back in coverage. Todd is known for doing things like that all of the time. When I was going back and watching Packers film ahead of last week's matchup, week 6 of 2020 of the 2020 season, it was very funny because there was this one look, and I remember calling it out at the time, and then I talked about it afterwards. They literally had a safety. They had Jordan Whitehead lined up over the center as a nose tackle, and they had Ndamukong Suh lined up behind him in the second level as an inside linebacker. And then you had Vita Vea like flanked out, or you had your tackles flanked out. It was just like, it wasn't Vita because he was out then, but I was like, it was insane. It was just like the most bizarre look. And I'm like, if you're a quarterback and you're looking at that, what do
you do with that?
What are you supposed to, as an offensive line, what are you supposed to do with that? So I'm interested to see how they mix things up and they try to get to Mahomes and kind of throw him off, because get him out of rhythm a little bit and maybe get him a little frustrated like he was last game.
Was certainly frustrated. There was a lot of frustration all around from Chiefs fans. You can kind of see it on the field too with some of the players. So what's your fourth? Are we on number 4 here, or is this your fourth?
I think maybe the safeties confusing Mahomes might have been 4th. So maybe we're on the 5th now. But I want to go back to for the Bucs offense, essentially, because Chiefs aren't the only ones with the offensive line issues. That is also something that the Bucs have been dealing with ever since the second day of training camp when center Ryan Jensen went down. And you just have had some bad injury luck along that line that was already going to be switched up because Alex Kappa left in free agency, their right guard. Left guard Ali Marpet retired. So you already had kind of new people along that interior. Add in now Robert Hainsey playing center for the first time in his career. And now you have a left tackle situation because Donovan Smith went out 2 games ago. Your backup to Donovan Smith, Josh Wells, got hurt. So now this last game against the Packers, they're starting their 3rd string left tackle. He's making his first NFL start ever, and he's having to protect Tom Brady's blind side. Talk about a really high pressure situation. And I did a film study about the Packers D-line. They just attacked the left side of the Bucs line all day, and it worked. And Tom Brady, got sacked 3 different times. He was hurried a bunch more. The offense really was prevented from getting into any sort of rhythm because that pocket was just not reliable. And obviously for someone like Tom Brady, that's an issue. So now you go into the Chiefs game and you guys have a defensive front of your own. And I would think that they're going to end up trying to exploit that if Donovan Smith isn't back. Now, Donovan Smith was a question mark this last game. They thought maybe he could go, maybe he couldn't. He returned to practice. I would expect that he's going to try and go this week. But even if he's there, that's still like he's not going to be 100%. He's dealing with an elbow issue that's more of a pain management issue with his elbow. That's very, very painful. And then you've got a rookie at left guard, and you got Robert Hainsey at center, who is honestly, though, I saw him take on Kenny Clark from the Packers over and over and over again, and he did a really good job.
Yeah.
I think that Hainsey has by far and away exceeded anyone's expectations of what he can do at center. You can't replace a guy like Ryan Jensen, but Hainsey is sure he's doing his job, and he's doing it well. And I'm really proud of him on a personal note, but this is going to be a big test for sure for this offensive line to see if they can get any offensive rhythm going.
Absolutely. And I'm sure Chiefs fans will not have any sympathy for Bucs fans when it comes to offensive line troubles. When
I wouldn't expect them to
facing these two teams. But no, the offensive lines for both of these teams kind of an area of concern, which is odd because the Bucs having a really good offensive line. The Chiefs coming into this year, very confident in their offensive line, hasn't quite looked the same for really both of these teams. Still trying to figure it out. Week 4 already? Week 4. Still trying to figure things out. Is that crazy?
Quarter of the way really through the season, like almost now that there's 17 games, but
right.
A quarter of the way through the season, like where's the time going already?
Happened really fast. Do you have another thing to watch for, or do we get all the things that we need to watch for?
Yeah, I think that's kind of 5, but I'm trying to think of maybe something else.
Bonus
offensively. I mean, I'm gonna the Bucs need to be more balanced on offense too, I think, and especially given that these receivers aren't there's just a lot of shuffling around with the receiver core. You're gonna need to get Leonard Fournette a little bit more involved. I mean, the Packers have a really good rushing defense too. So that was one of the things where they were able to shut down Leonard Fournette. Neither team had a good day on the ground, which is why neither team had a good offense last week. So I think that that's something that they'll lean on a little bit more between Leonard Fournette, Rachaad White, who was their draft pick out of Arizona State, which is my alma mater. Go Devils. I think that he's such a pro-ready back as it is, and I know the coaches really like him, so I would be interested to see if he gets a little bit more work this week. But you definitely saw Tom Brady going to some of his safety nets. Like Cam Brate had more targets in this last game, tight end, because of I think just because of the fact that Tom knows him and he doesn't know any of these other receivers that he's trying to throw to. He knows Cam's ticks. He knows he's got the timing down with Cam, all that kind of stuff. But the Bucs are running some more kind of multiple tight end sets, multiple running back sets, because they now have Keeft, who's a tight end, but acts as a fullback sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm just going to be very interested to see what the Bucs do to kind of spark this offense, because they're going to need to score points if they're going to win. Your defense is literally averaging letting up 9 points a game. That's their average. You should be able to be winning games at this point.
I just got off a show before we got on here outside the trenches where I said, BJ asked me, he said, what do you think about this game? I was like, I just think that the Chiefs offense can score more points than the Bucs offense can. And they're like, wow, great analysis. But I was like, no, I mean, if you think about it, it's like these two teams have a lot of similarities. And I see a lot of the Chiefs and the Bucs and a lot of the Bucs and the Chiefs. Maybe some of the issues aren't the exact same. They're kind of dealing with some of the same issues. So when it comes to that, I'm going to be really excited to see how this game shakes out. Again, we'll be on Sunday night. We'll be Sunday Night Football still, regardless of where it's played, is still up in the air.
That's actually probably my other point, because I wanted to bring this up too.
Yeah.
The Bucs are practicing in Miami, which is great. But that means that their off day was spent on Tuesday driving down to Miami, and a lot of people evacuating their families, their pets, taking all of their essentials with them. The Bucs were gracious enough to say that family members could come with them, with the players and stuff, to come down and evacuate to Miami with them. But that also means, from a football standpoint, that these guys didn't get any rest on Tuesday. And it's a pretty high stress situation as it is, just having to obviously leave your home, evacuate because of a hurricane. You have no idea what's going to happen there. So even if this game, it's going to go off on Sunday, but the Bucs have been dealing with things off of the field that I think could bleed into this game a little bit. Just human nature. I mean, like, I can't imagine having to get all of that stuff ready and together and then drive down to Miami, which is almost a 4-hour drive from Tampa, with all of your stuff, with your pets, with your family, all that kind of stuff, and making sure everybody's good and that your house is okay and all that other stuff. So that's probably my main takeaway too, is I want to make sure that people take that into consideration.
Right. These players are humans. I think a lot of times we forget that, is they're humans too. We see that. And this is one of those situations where you really get to see that. It's gonna be a tough environment, regardless, for either of these teams too. I mean, if the Chiefs have to, going to Minnesota is a little bit different than going to Tampa Bay, right? I know it's a dome and everything, but there's going to be adjustments. Not saying that the Chiefs' adjustments will be harder than the Bucs. Obviously, their adjustments are harder. But Carmen, I appreciate you joining me. Last question before I get you out of here: who has more pressure in this game? Do the Chiefs have more pressure to win this game, or do the Bucs have more pressure to win this game?
I would probably say the Chiefs do, just because both teams lost this last week, but I think you feel better about the loss if you're the Bucs, because you know that, hey, you were down a bunch of receivers, you're going to get those guys back. Same with the offensive line. Like, the outlook is fine. And I think for the Chiefs, kind of the same thing applies at the same time, because obviously the Chiefs lost that game. As far as I'm concerned, the Colts did not win it.
Right.
That's kind of my outlook on it. But when it's the Colts versus the Packers, who the Packers are thought to be one of the top teams in the conference, versus the Colts, who are not one of the top teams in the AFC, I feel like the bounce back for the Chiefs, there's a lot more pressure on that. At the same time, these are both really good teams. So whoever comes out in the win column is going to feel good. Whoever comes out in the loss column, though, not that there are more moral victories in this league, but if the Bucs get through this game with everything they've had going on this week, and just make it to the game, I think that's a win in and of itself. For all those reasons too, I think that the Bucs maybe don't have as much pressure on them, because I think people will understand there's an asterisk on this game for the Bucs, given how much of the other stuff that they're having to put up with. So Chiefs, I think the Chiefs have more pressure on them to win this game for sure.
Yeah, good point. I like it. Carmen, thank you for joining me. Let the people know where they can find your work at.
Well, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at CarmieV. That's CarmieV. But my work is all published on foxsports.com. I am their NFC North writer. So I'm dealing with the Packers, the Bears, the Lions, the Vikings. And I also do some stuff kind of in and around Chicago, given that's where I am located. So if you have an affinity for the Chicago Bears or any of the NFC North teams, come check me out.
One of my best friends is a Chicago Bears fan. I'll make sure to send him your way. Yes. So I appreciate you joining me. Thank you guys for watching this video all the way to the end. Make sure to like and subscribe to it. If you're listening on the audio platforms, give us a rating, leave a review. Let us know how you like the show and the program. BJ Kissel will be back tomorrow with Trevor Sycamore, Pro Football Focus. They're going to have it out about Patrick Mahomes and the rating. They're going to go at it for us. So make sure to tune in for that one. Yeah,
two of my favorites in this industry, BJ and Trev.
Trevor's amazing, isn't he? Oh, he's awesome. He's wonderful. And BJ's my boss, so yeah.
So he's awesome, but no, BJ.
So he's awesome.
He's a great one.
BJ's amazing. Yeah. So thank you everybody for watching and listening. BJ will be back tomorrow. Until next week, I will see you guys on Thursday. So I'll talk to you later.